All right, folks, what's going on? This is your boy Megaman again, here in another episode of Megaman's Legends. And today we do have a legend, another one, actually. Considered the homie, the teacher, and he's been around enough to know what's happening in the scenes. I will like to introduce you all to the homie, Chris Phire Scott. Phire, what's going on, bro?
What's going on, y'all? What's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you so much.
Hey, thank you, man. This was like, when I came up with this idea, I sought you to ask you first, honestly, because given the history that you had within the FGC in terms of running a store and everything, I figured you were like one of the best candidates to look out for in terms of, telling us what happened in the past, what you've seen. What do you think is happening from then till now? Given your experience to see what's going on right now.
All right. First, let me tell you where I came from, right? So the craziest thing about me is that I'm known by a lot of people in the FGC, but like those are a lot of old heads in the New York scene and some West Coasters. But I originally started working out of a play and trade on 13th Street, right? This is about 2008. I used to work at a doctor's office and I got shit canned from it. Like that was like the first time I've ever gotten fired, by the way. And at the time I met Justin Wong and we started this thing called Chocolate. I mean, it was supposed to be like a media outlet, TV show and everything like that. And around 2009, Street Fighter 4 hit and I was working out of the play and trade, like unofficially, but just doing like little shit. So like, even if you go back into the archives and you look at when Justin Wong met 50 Cent, that was one of the things that we put together. So it goes back far. It goes back to the 4 days, really. I was kind of active. I used to play at Broadway City when it was in Times Square. And then, I think the 42nd Street Arcade, I forgot what it was called. Like, I'm getting old.
Laser Park?
No, it wasn't Laser. Laser Park was around when I was playing too, but there was a arcade in the 42nd Street Port Authority.
Oh, and, I think that was like I know what that was. I think the name. Yeah, the name escapes me.
But so I was like one of those kids, and I was like a Game Facts kid. But 2009 is when I really started taking it seriously, and Street Fighter 4 Vanilla just came out, and I knew Justin. Justin was doing his thing. We organized a play and trade tournament. Around that time, I started doing like a lot of shit. But he was one of the first people to say that I wanted to get better at Street Fighter 4. I went to Japan in like 2007 for the first time, like right after graduation, and Street Fighter 4 was already in the arcades. So like, I tried to play C Viper. I was a fucking fraud, but when the console version hit, I went back to my main love, Cammy. Justin was one of the people that told me that if you got a bunch of people together around the same skill level, you'll all improve faster rather than you just play somebody that's better than you all the time, because you're all sharing knowledge and you're all bringing something together, which was like the idea behind the dojo once we moved from like 13th Street down to St. Mark's, right? So that concept was there. So we did a couple of tournaments at the Play and Trade. There's a couple of like big tournaments and stuff like that we did. So where I met like a lot of the East Coast scene. And then there was a time where Chinatown Fair closed. And this is like a little bit before Next Level opened. So I was kind of like the stopgap for locals. Like, I did a little bit here and there, but like a lot of the scene showed up at the St. Mark's 8-bit, right? So it's funny. I'm like, someone says like I'm like the common of video games. I like the most basic person know me, but like the real game heads know me because I was working with local battles. So like Winrich and like Chris G and like all those people. even like Ray Ray and like all the stuff like that, even like Mad Titan, FNEX, like all those guys. It's just like, I was there when they first started, right? Like I was like organizing the stuff, and then King of the Couches with like Rod Lane and all this other shit. And then did a lot of that, worked with Maxim for the Gamer Girl contest. And I was like really kind of doing the gaming thing, fighting games, you know, went to EVO, went to my first EVO, I think in 2011. So I was like really in the scene, met Henry Sen, and Henry Sen and I did an interview with Henry Sen on my show. One of my first episodes of Chocolate when I was pitching a TV show. So it was one of the first episodes. And then I just tried to like ingrain myself in the scene and trying to leave it better than I found it. So like around Street Fighter V, I kind of took a break because like life happened. And so I'm back for Street Fighter 6. And there's a lot of things that I've noticed from 2009 till now. I think a lot of them are like, I'll tell you, like the infrastructure, if we had the infrastructure back then that we had now, I think it would be different.
Right.
Because like a lot of the things like NYU, the Spring Fighter, and like there's like a lot of stuff, and we were still trying to figure it out. We were all really young, and now that we're older, like man, we look back at like if we had the mobile Twitch and like the pocket Wi-Fi's and streaming wasn't a thing, like it wasn't like a big stream, like a big like setup like it is now, like then like it is now. Like now it's easy, anyone could do it. So almost anyone could do it. So like there's like a lot of technological advances that I think the 09ers would have had like a lot of benefit from, and then even the days when we had like arcades and stuff like that. But I also noticed that a lot of the problems are still the same, right? So it's like, even though the money is there, the money's not there for everybody. It's still, the NFL had this issue with parity, and it's like still same parity because the same people are making the same amount of money. And it's not really trickling down, right? And I think with Street Fighter V, what that did was, since they lowered, not to say that they lowered, but they made the game a little bit easier. And so you had more people coming in. So now a lot of content creation, and it was very pick up and play. I think a lot of people became content creators because it was more lucrative, right?
Right.
And I think now we're at that weird balance where it's like Street Fighter 6 is kind of like Street Fighter 5 and 4, but you kind of do have to be good because you have to make reads and you have to guess. But the game is very easy to access. So it's like they're trying to find that blend between content creator and like player, right?
Right.
But the thing what I've also noticed is that I spend a lot.
I think it might kind of cut out for a moment there. Well, I think it's pretty fascinating what your story is. And I know you could probably hear me, just your mic kind of went out for a moment there. But I really, it's a pretty interesting start. Like your roots really go back to like a lot of really a lot of players.
It was like pretty hot outside.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, cool. So like what I've noticed is that even the fact that we can go to arcade and just on console, people still age, right? And well, why is that? Why do you think that is? Well, I think it's because. Oh, sorry. No, why do you think people are still going to arcades even though everything's on console now?
I feel like one of the biggest things is, I would think it's I want to say one of it is the nostalgic feel, and the other thing is I feel like a lot of folks that never had the chance to go to an actual arcade of itself wants to experience like obviously what we've been through. Like I would say as a kid growing up, one of the main arcades I used to go to was actually the one that was at 42nd Street, and then there was also Laser Park as well. The other one that I used to go to as well was the one that was in Brooklyn
Game Time USA. No,
Yep.
Funtime USA.
Funtime USA. Yep, Funtime USA. And then in Sheepshed Bay, it also had Funkoland as well too, where even though it was a game store, you still had opportunity to just play some games and everything like that. But I would say like one of the biggest reasons why folks want to go to an arcade is I really want to say it's for the nostalgic reason. Because not a lot of folks were, exposed to the arcade cabs, the getting the quarters from the machine type of feel and everything. It's pretty significant, I would say, that arcades were, I feel like should still be around, is because that kind of balances the way how, between playing console and playing console at home. I mean, it's good just for accessibility, but I mean, once in a while, I like to touch grass and go outside and see how it is and be a part of that arcade feel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But like, also, what I noticed is that as a foreigner, right? Like, I've sat in arcades and people come up to me and they talk to me, and like we share tech. We talk about things like, "Well, why'd you do that?" Like, I think it's the community itself, like to actively get better. Well, I know there's a lot of offline events now,
right,
that Doc Fugu like posts and everything, like a lot of console events. Those are just as popular as just going to like K Arcade or like South Station and grinding it out. And I think people, this is not me glazing the Japanese. This is not me glazing it like anything else, but it's just that the financial aspect of being a gamer isn't really the driving factor when I go over there. Like, no one really cares about like making money off of it. It seems like, because they're all popping in hundreds of yen per game to like actually get good. And some of these people probably don't even go to tournaments. Like, my pool at Evo was like the most random collection of people, but they were all fighting for pride. You know what I mean? And I think one of the things that hasn't changed is that I think here in the States, I think we're focused too heavily on just trying to make $1 and clout and being like famous for pressing buttons. And I think that is the biggest hindrance that we have, because in 2009, the problem was people were gatekeeping tech. And if you weren't allowed into that inner circle, like, you weren't getting that knowledge. I was fortunate that I wasn't really a direct competitor, because I was ass cheeks in like Vanilla 4. I didn't start getting better until Super Arcade Edition, but like, I wasn't really trying to take anybody's spot, but they saw me as an organizer. They fucked with me and they were like, "Yo, you're in, you get to hobnob and talk with people about shit and get their input." But like, a lot of like average and starting out players don't have that, because it's a dog eat dog world. Not to say that it's impossible, but it's just harder for like Joey Donuts to like walk up to somebody and be like, "Yo, how do you do this, without them getting dismissed," right? Like, think about your own experience with me. Like, how many people have you hobnobbed with? Like, and I'm just there and it's like, "Oh, that's Phire, whatever, you're cool." And you're immediately in.
Right. No, I see what you're saying. I mean, I would probably say, in my experience, I've definitely experienced that a lot, where I was like outside of the circle and I kind of had to figure out my way in terms of, like getting good, pretty much in particular. But I feel like during that time, even though if you had like tech that was kind of gate kept, right? That was the begin. I think that was the beginning. Well, during that time, which was like 2009, 2010, I felt like that was the beginning of, I want to probably say like the digital age, where YouTube is was first coming out, and then you had all these videos of. You had all these videos of past tournaments that was happening, like Battle of the Bay, ECT, West Coast Warzone. It was like everything that was coming out. So you feel like, oh man, you wouldn't believe that all these all these videos was finally being uploaded like to a way that, hey, it could get expanded to the world in terms of seeing it. But but it was pretty awesome in terms of once you, I feel like, and the other thing is once you get good also, and you start to get noticed that, I feel like that's when, just like you said, in terms of the inner circle not accepting you and gatekeeping you in terms of tech, you start to get noticed by them. And then obviously you get into that inner circle of it is. And then that's when more of your mind just expands in terms of how much things that they had available for you right there.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Like, I mean, better you get, the more like you get invited in. But I just think that it's like, I don't know if it's because of like how things are in the States, because like everybody's trying to make a living, and I feel like everyone's trying to make that $1 million. But I also think it's like with fighting games, it's really hard because it's not like you're playing Minecraft. It's not like you're playing Call of Duty. It's not like you're playing like fucking Warzone or like any of the MOBAs that like print money because people want to watch that. It's like, it's a very niche market. And I think the product would be better if a lot of us came, like, put aside our little like petty differences and like fighting for like small piece of the pie and actually work together, right? So like if I go like literally if I go, like I'm going next month, but with any arcade I go into, people are going to want a session, and then even if they don't speak English, they Google Translate and they ask you questions. I remember when I was in Japan with Brandon for Evo, dudes would be like, yo, one more set. Why would you do that there? Like, what's this matchup like? They would ask because they want to know. And I think it's like one of those things that you have to show people how to beat your Bankai in order for your Bankai to be better. So it's like, it was interesting. Like, there was like a lot of stuff that, like, for the Marissa I lost to, we became friends on Twitter. But even before we became friends on Twitter, we were just talking about the matchup. And she was like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't really have to do much. You know, like this, like I do enough damage to, like, if you make one mistake, I can kill you, and I can be real conservative. And it's like, you wouldn't get that at an American. Maybe you would, depending on who was in your poll, but you would get salt. Like, I got some salt when I was out there. And it was surprising because, like, I got salt because we were playing on a setup with no sound. And I was down 1-0 in the set. And then I 2-0'd because I was like, oh, I can hear my confirms now. And the person that asked for sound was so mad. Like, they were mad at me because they were like, yo, had I not asked for sound, I would have won. But like, I also choked to like a modern geek who didn't really like know what the fuck they were doing. They were just going crazy. And I'm like, when I tell you I was big mad, and this was like in winter semis, I was like, God fucking damn it. Like, I was out, I was at the finish line. I'm climbing out of the pool. I slipped, I bust my head, and I drowned. But again, it's all like it's community. And I think we're forgetting the biggest part of the FGC, which is the community aspect. Because, you know, the FGC right now is standing for Fighting Game Capitalism. Everyone's trying to make, like, ends meet. And I don't blame them. Like, life sucks right now. Like, unless you have a good 9 to 5, shit is hard, bro. Like, it's really hard out there. Like, you know me personally. Like, you know how many hats I had to wear before I ended up where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I did. I remember we had a pretty lengthy discussion in terms of the amount of hats that you had to do. And I will say it was kind of impressive in terms of what you really actually went through. And I feel like till this day, I feel like you found a balance at this point in terms of like work, you know, having the home life, playing, going on the sticks and everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's pretty much awesome in terms of what you do. But
yeah, hold on, for context, people don't know. So prior to So in the BC era, the before Corona era, I used to work no less than 3 jobs at any given time. Worked at 8-Bit,
Yep.
held sessions at 8-Bit. I worked at Crunch. I worked at my fight gym that I was training at, and I worked at a bar as a bouncer. So I was managing like 4 to 5 different things at one time, and still trying to like organize stuff. I think the reason why I had to really stop at 5 is because I had to survive. Like I didn't have the energy to do the same thing. I also hated 5, so I wasn't really a big fan of 5. Like I didn't have the motivation. Me and Cammy weren't on speaking terms. Like we were going through it.
Yeah.
But
Well,
but the lockdown, right? The pandemic and everything like that. I changed. Now I'm working one job. I can like support my house. I can take care of my mom. Now I have time to like stream and do things. And I see a difference. And I think if I had this, I do regret not traveling before. I think I was really strong before. Just like one of those, like I was a dark horse. Like you don't want to get me in a 3-game set because I might beat you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm gonna be like that in 6. Like I'm doing okay in 6, but yeah, it's like finding the balance, and that's the key thing, right? And a lot of people right now, they can't afford to have that balance because like jobs are like shitty, the Twitch payouts aren't great, viewership is like whatever, and everyone's fighting for the same viewers. Unless you go a completely different route, like some people did, and you embrace the troll and you become a villain. But even then, that doesn't last too long, right? Like it comes crumbling down once you piss off enough people. So, I mean, I get it. I think where the community can go is in the next few years. I think if the Riot joint is good, like the free-to-play model works for Riot, I think other companies might follow suit with that. You won't get a free-to-play Street Fighter, but you'll get like a free-to-play something like Cyberbots.
Right.
Yeah, because they're not going to put their main IP free-to-play. They'll probably, you know what I mean? They'll do like Rumblefish or Capcom fighting something, and it'll have some of the classic characters in it. But I feel like the free-to-play model might change depending on how Riot handles like a lot of things. Like right now we're having cheating, and like right now we're having cheating in 6, and then like Tekken and like all the online ones. But those are, you pay the whatever to play it, and I guess the companies are maintaining it on their own time. I do think fighting games are going to probably be within the next 2 Olympics at the Olympics. They're definitely gonna do esports at one of these Olympics, like proper. But I think fighting games are going to make it in like the next 2. Mm-hmm. I think it's hard to deny it because 2 million people playing a game, and then it's like things change, right? It took forever for skateboarding to make it and breakdancing to make it, and they made it. So I feel like they're becoming cultural phenomenons, and I think a lot of kids are growing up like idolizing their favorite players or doing the same things, and you know what I mean? So I feel like that's going to that the money might dry up on like the community level, you know what I mean?
Right. No, I see what you mean. So tell me, is that what you see maybe in the next 5 years with the FGC pretty much in terms of fighting games?
Well, I mean, it's tough. It's getting tough. Like a lot of the orgs are like sucking wind. Like a lot of places are going underneath, and it's like it's not profitable to like keep like doing certain things. Mm-hmm. I feel like certain companies like Red Bull, like they're in a good spot. All their money comes from fucking Red Bull, so it's like gonna have to be something like that where something that's inherent in gamer life. I hate to say it like that, like gamer life, but like inherent in like video game players' lives has to throw down some money for some stuff, and I think that's what's gonna float a lot. You definitely have a good grassroots with some people, with like Jabali and everyone like that. Right. But I feel like in order for things to like progress, I'm not gonna say sell out and go esports, but like for the average player, it doesn't make sense, right? Like it's like tennis, like fighting games are a lot like tennis, not really like boxing or any other team sports, because you only get paid if you place. So it doesn't make sense to field a team of like 5 people, maybe like 2 or 3, and it's like low Like it's like that's basically your marketing budget, right? Like you slap something on the jersey and you send them out. So it's like you have to get them into high profile things. You get those players into high profile things. You also make leeway and, like, you know, friends with the company. So like if I am Red Bull, right, and then another company that does something that's non-competitive with, and they sponsor a player, then, you know, we might talk business on collaborating on a project for future stuff to make more money.
I see.
You know what I mean? So it's like Gatorade and Red Bull won't ever do something together. But like Red Bull and Nike, like that might be like, yo, you know, do you want to do this? But I think conspiracy theory, Jaylen Brown didn't get picked on the Olympic team because he's not a Nike athlete.
Oh, well, that makes sense though. I mean, I didn't know. Yeah. I really didn't know that. I really didn't know that was a real. I really didn't know that was actually real. Like, because he's not a Nike athlete, he didn't get picked for the Olympic team. That's kind of messed up in a way, but still.
Because think about it, like Nike sponsored all of the athletes, right? And then it's like you have to wear a Nike jersey, Nike sneakers, whatever like that. I think Jaylen Brown is Adidas or something like that. He can't wear no Adidas with a Nike jersey. Like, what? Like, what? What are you doing? Like, so you can't do that. But like, see what I'm saying? Like, you get like a clothing company, a sneaker company, you build a lifestyle brand, and then you do a collaboration. And then it's like, oh, okay, like maybe Nike releases some bags that are available on Red Bull, or like they give away at, you know what I mean? So like, I think it's going to have to get bigger, and companies or people are going to have to start thinking more like, build more of a brand thing rather than just like an individual, hey, you know, I play Street Fighter really well, or like I do this. Like, I think Long Island Joe works out and stuff like that. He would be a good candidate for something like that, right? But I don't think he's playing like that. But like, if Punk decided to become a skateboarder too, and then it's like, oh, now it makes sense because he's in doing this and this and this.
Right.
So it's tough. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, we're getting locked in because we only do one thing, but it's supposed to something like if we played like League of Legends or Dota or, you know, whatever. Those are like hugely international because they're free to play and they're in LAN cafes. We don't really have that here, you know? Everything is console. You don't have arcades. You don't have really that many LAN centers if you think about it. So it's just like, well, what can we do here? I mean, like, well, we got console shooters, but how well did MLG do, right? Like, it's 2024. When is the last time we thought about MLG?
That's true. That is true. I don't think the last time we thought about MLG was like, what, in the teens? Like 20, in the teens, pretty much. Like, I would say like nowadays, in terms of shooters or so, like the biggest shooter to date at this point would be like, what, pretty much Counter-Strike at this point?
Yeah, Counter-Strike, Warzone.
Yeah, Counter-Strike, Warzone. At this point, still StarCraft is still pretty much up there in terms of playing and everything. But I see what you mean in terms of how it's gonna look. Like, you feel like it might be it might be tough in the next 5 years unless the FGC kind of sells out and basically go with the bigger orgs like Red Bull or Gatorade or something like that sponsors the events.
It might, because it's gonna need that. It's like, it's gonna have to, like, I think a couple things need to happen. Like, one, we need to get our shit together and like have an organizing body, so that way it's like you can seed for these things better, right? So like, not to say that cheating won't happen at like the lowest levels. Like, if we had like a whole system, like we tried to do this before during core, but it didn't really work out. But now is the perfect time to do it, chat. We track offline and online, and then maybe there's like the ELO system where it's like we know that, and then it's like you can qualify, like showing up to Red Bull, like you'd be seated, right? Because I got like 64th at Red Bull, and then I got like top like 50% in Street Fighter 6 at Evo Japan. Maybe I'm seated a little bit higher. You know what I mean? Like, give more incentive, and then it's like they look at your online stuff. Like, you need to build more of a way to track players rather than just the big majors and then that's it, right? Because not everybody can make the majors. Think about it, like, sorry to take everybody back in time, but in 2009, I was probably one of the best camis in the city. And it's like I didn't travel. So it's like I couldn't travel because I didn't have the money and I was doing a lot of stuff. But you think about the players that are really good, that are monsters, that just can't travel, due to work, to family commitments. Like, they're fucking nice, so you know what I mean? But it's just like with basketball, right? Like, how many players you know are fucking great, but like they never play college, they never play high school because of things happening. So it's like we need to do better with like at the lower levels, like the base levels, and get everybody on the same page. Like, there's a little bullshit that's going on now where people are like, I'm going to schedule a tournament the same day this place is scheduling a tournament, directly competing rather than work with them and building a circuit in the city, which is more like marketable. Like, you can say, okay, we got this grassroots circuit like along New York City. You build that out, and then it's like, okay, these boroughs are, and then you can do things like King of New York, like real King of New York, because you'll have multiple venues where you can qualify at, and then each venue will send their best to like whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's a very interesting take that you have there in regards about how it's bad to schedule tournaments on the same day. But I do have a question for you on that, right? Mm-hmm. So I've seen before, and there is like split. I want to say it's like a split answer, right? And people feel like, for instance, you host this Street Fighter 4 tournament on, let's say, Saturday on the 20th, right? You schedule that. Then next thing you know, some guy across like in the city hosts the exact same tournament, right? Both streamed and everything like that. Now, my question to you is, now I know in terms of like entry, it may hurt because obviously it's going to get split. But does this hurt the game in terms of visibility towards you?
All right, so I feel like it does. Like, okay, so it's definitely a split answer, right? Like, so you're getting two channels that are streaming the same thing,
yeah,
which is a good look. But it hurts the unity, right? Like, I think it hurts. It doesn't hurt the game itself. Capcom is fine. Like, if we're streaming Street Fighter on two separate things, I think the community part hurts, right? The fighting game part is fine, but the community hurts because then there's no continuity now, right? Because it's like, well, I thought we were all together, and someone's like, nah, I want, basically, like, it hurts the unity of the stuff. Like, so rather than me say, okay, you know, I'm gonna promote your stuff too, you're like, everyone wants a little piece of the pie for themselves for a little bit of clout, right? So like, rather than be a united kingdom where a bunch of city-states fighting with each other over like a block, like a small piece of land. Mm-hmm. Got it, right? Like, how many, like, I think Street Fighter moved like 2 million units?
For which one?
Was it 2 million units that you, like, I think it was like 2 million players on Street Fighter 6 when it dropped or whatever like that. And I know that number is not going up.
Yeah, for which Street Fighter unit exactly? Like 6, 5, 4?
Yeah, no, for Street Fighter 6, I think it was 2 million, right? That was like the crazy number, like, oh, 2 million units sold, yeah, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's not even the population of Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that is crazy.
Like, it might be it's less. It's definitely less than the population of New York. I guess with the concurrent player base, you could probably fit everybody inside of a borough, right? Like, you can fit the 3%, like the hardcore players, in like a block. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like, it's like, it's not big, so like we have to do our best, like, even at the local level, to like support the actual community, rather than be at each other's throats for like, what, $10 in venue fee for like 20 people?
Yeah.
Like, you really undercut somebody for like $60, $70 maybe? Like, it's crazy. And it's like, I think if people took a step back and they were more, if they, like, not to say they don't love the game, I think if they loved the game and really wanted to see it grow, they would say, okay, let's work on this schedule. You could literally have a circuit where you're probably guaranteed at least 2 or 3 locals a week, right? And so like you could do like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing, or an all weekend, or like even if you do like Next Level Wednesday, Waypoint Cafe Mondays, and then you do like Brooklyn video games on like a Friday, and then you can do Saturday nights at Brooklyn. That's 4 different venues with like spaced out. And it's like, if you want to make this your living, you probably can. That's not even counting the stuff that's in Jersey, right? And so now that you know when things are, and then you have like an actual functional schedule rather than I'm just going to try to like snipe people's stuff, it flows better. Like that's why local battle, like when local battle was up and running, like I worked with them because it was like, it's no competition to me because this is Jersey, but at the same time, like this is help building out the Jersey scene, right?
Mm-hmm. Which it did, yes.
Yeah, like I mean, dude, like, and then 8 on the Break was fine. 8 on the Break was totally fine. Like the New Jersey King of the Couch was fine when it happened in Jersey. The NGIT, the campus tournaments were fine. We would set like, you know what I mean? So it's doable. It's just that you got to want to do it. And it's like, you have to understand that, all right, there's some things in business where it can't just be about the bottom line. Like you have to do something like, okay, I'll take the L for this one thing, but then this is what we need to do. And then you unify, like everyone plays the same venue fee. Like we all come together and say, your venue is 10 or 15, venue is 10 or 15. That's it, across the board.
I see. Well, that's a pretty good answer that you give. I like that answer a lot. Definitely shows your knowledge in terms of TOing, because you have instantly, I would say, you have done a lot during the times, and especially during the dojo days, which I've grown to appreciate very much, because I like I told people before, if it wasn't for you and hosting these dojo sessions, I would not have gotten my start in terms of being integrated into the SGC in the first place, because I would have not met pretty much anybody that I've met today at this point. And little that people, and like I told people before also, is that this man on this comms right now is one of the instrumental reasons in regards of what I am today in ST. Because if you remember, right, there was a time that I was like slumping really hard in, where we were playing Super, or was it AE? I think it was AE, right, in Arcade Edition, Street Fighter 4. And I was doing horrible. And you kind of pulled me to the side, to the front of the store, and this is where you move to the East 3rd Street, I believe, and First Ave, right?
Yep.
And you told
3rd Street Saints.
Yeah, you told me, bro, you need to work on your footsies and fundamentals, and you told me, play this game right here, which was ironically ST. So
we had the cab.
Yep, that's right. You had the cab, and it's funny because I've played ST before, but now in terms of like ironically taking it serious, I feel like that fateful day, I really wouldn't have played ST at all if it wasn't for you to tell me, hey, you should just play this game to work on your fundamentals and everything like that. So there was a lot of history that went on in 8-bit. Now, dude, I will say this though. I mean, I do appreciate you more, but tell me this. I mean, in terms of the what else historic moments happened at 8-bit though?
There's a lot of shit. There was the there's like so many things. I mean, there was that one Street Fighter 4 tournament that had like Swoozy, Justin, like a bunch of people, like 100 and something people for a local on a random winter night. Like it was crazy. It was back in the day. I forgot what tournament it was. I forgot which one. spooky stream. That those archives are long gone, but like you had Wong, you had a lot of Empire Arcadia there. You had some names. Fabrog was like young, then it was four. Like there's so many people there. Little do people know that I got Chris G on local battles. Like there's like little shit like that. Like there's like local battles Chris G because I was like, yo, let's sponsor Chris G. I unleashed him on the world. I'm sorry, maybe not sorry. Let's see who else. Like I think just seeing everybody grow. Like fucking this kid, CJ, watching him grow into like this player, but watching you all grow into this player, I think those are the best things. And then just watching how far the game has come, right? Like there's a lot of players that I see that I'm like, yeah, they played at 8-bit, they played at 8-bit. Seeing like dudes like Ray on stage, remembering when they used to go to 8-bit to play, like seeing Chris, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's weird, you know what I mean? Or it's just like, just seeing like, no offense, just seeing how you grew over time, no diddy. And it's just like being like having people recognize that like it's good coaching because like I'm a coach now, and it's like there's good coaching in like a good environment and people recognizing that. And I think a lot more people being aware of that, and like even having people to this day remember me from that. I think that's the most amazing thing. Yeah, dude, we did a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I did with absolutely nothing. I think if I had to do it all over again, I would. I think I would have tried to stream more if I had to do it all over again. Because some of those sessions, man, he had some killers in the building. There'd be times where Art was there, G was there, Home was there. Rest in peace, SK and Remix, they've came through. Even like Yipes before Yipes really took off, like all the names, all those names were there, bro. And it's just like they feel like family. Those feel like my cousins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My cousins and my nephews.
Oh man, no, that's pretty awesome, man. Like I said, you were definitely deep rooted during those times in the FGC, especially like you were there for like pretty much the beginning of the games, like pretty much Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5 as well.
Crack Beta Boy.
Yeah, man. I it's funny because I was telling people, right, that 8-bit was probably one of three places in New York that had the crack beta, and we used to get heads come through. So during that time, right, the three places that technically had it was Long Island, the Bronx, and Brooklyn. Technically, it was in Manhattan, which is myself, Coach Steve, and L.I. Joe had the crack beta during that time, right? And I remember the day. If you remember this day too, when I first brought it to the store, right? It was just, it's funny because it kind of started off as a small group, pretty much because there were times that, if you remember, I used to host it at my house, like during the
White Castle sessions.
White Castle sessions during the time where you had, let's see, who came through my house. There was you, there was Reginald, there was John, Brandon, Joe was there. There was a point that I remember not Cass, this was maybe afterwards, but I would say like, then there was Manny, then CJ came through, RLBS. It was a lot of folks that came through, man. Like that 5 beta, this was, and you know the funny thing about it is that 5 beta, if you would probably agree with me, right? The 5 beta was kind of interesting because it was at a point that, okay, somebody cracked it, but it was hard to get it. And
yeah, it was a tough one to find
because you didn't had all the. I mean, I want to say the resources were there, but the resources wasn't refined. In terms of how I got it, it was through a website, of course. But But I had to look for it because people kind of said, and this was the beginning of the whole social media age, where somebody said, "Oh, Street Fighter V was cracked after the day one beta and all that stuff." And then everybody had a choice to come and get it, but people didn't know how to really kind of set it up and everything like that. Like I said, I was one of the few people that was able to get it, and then I brought it to the store, and then we had heads come through, which was very interesting. To a point that, if you remember, right, we hosted the first beta tournament as well too.
Yeah, we had that offline joint going. I liked the beta because crouching fierce to Cammy was a crush counter button.
Yeah.
Those were the days, like that early. Once they took that away from her, I'm like, fuck this bitch, man. Like, no, Cammy.
It was funny because there was a point that you were kind of like having this affair, bro, with Lara Matsuda.
I mean, those Brazilians, dog. I think if I'd have stuck with the game, but games also come out at different points of your life. But I think 4 was when I was developing, my early adult and just doing shit. 5 was it wasn't an ideal time. I'm gonna be real with you. When Street Fighter 5 came out, it was I was falling in love at that time with somebody, and then it's just how am I going to support a family? So I was really thinking about that, and it was I was conflicted a bit. And then I had to go off into the wilderness and train. And now that I've ascended and I'm good, 6 is at the perfect time. I have the money to go to events. I have the time to go to events. I don't have to worry. Now I can really genuinely pursue it, put time in it. This is the first Street Fighter that I'm playing seriously since 4. Right. And it shows, right? Because I was a multi 10K cameo on PlayStation and Xbox. I'm a master rank now. I'm struggling with my MR, but I'm showing that I could fucking play. So it's I think with gaming, and I think one of the biggest things is balance that people don't realize it, and that you can press buttons really well, but if everything else isn't working out, you're gonna struggle. And I think people don't. Same thing with athletes, right? I'm a coach. I tell my players all the time, leave the shit outside the court, because when you get in the gym, whatever you're beefing with is going to show up on the court, and it's going to take you away from the game. So I think the biggest thing I could tell people, even up and coming players, that just focus on the game, work through the game. Your problems will still be there after you finish playing. So just enjoy the time that you have playing what you love, man. And then you're going to grow and you're going to see things. And also, losing is a part of growth. If you won everything, then you wouldn't want to get better, and then you would be bored. So losing and seeing what you can improve on, that is the number one thing. I think that's pretty much the best thing I can tell somebody. And then I think just understanding that psychology thing.
Yeah. Nah, I see what you mean. Man. So let's move on to something, right? Now let's talk about you in terms of how you grow into a fighting game, right? Now, I do want your answer on something. I'm gonna give you a 3-part question, right?
3-part question, okay.
So part 1, I want to know, how do you approach a newer fighting game, a newer Street Fighter, pretty much, right?
Okay.
How do you approach it? What are your ways of developing strategies in the modern games, right? Okay. And how do you adapt your play style when facing opponents under the changing conditions?
The way I approach Street Fighter, a very new game, is I basically go to the characters, I pick the characters, I look at the moves, I do the trials, whatever I feel really comfortable with doing, or the motions I feel like doing, motion character versus charge, 360 and everything like that. I really look at the character, in totality, the toolkit, the buttons, And then I just play as the character, right? I want to play Marissa. I'm going to play Terry when he comes out. But like right now, I don't feel like I'm at a mastery level with Cammy that I need to be at. Like before I start picking up another character, like I know my Marissa is Diamond, but like I don't feel like I'm a real Diamond Marissa, if that makes sense, right?
Right. Nah, I don't.
So like with like learning Marissa, like I'm learning her bread and butter, I learned her simple stuff, and then people will tell you stay in the lab before you're ready. I say go out and play and just have fun and play the character. And then once you get enough experience saying, okay, this, I need answers for these scenarios, that's when you hit the lab. That's when you refine your stuff, right? So with Cammy, the first thing I really worked on was execution because I've been playing Cammy for so long. I kind of know how she works, like where she works from and like what her buttons do. So it's like, okay, well, what do they do in this game? What's the differences? What are the similarities? If you notice, I back strong anti-air a lot because I'm so used to doing that in 4 or 5 ST sometimes. There's no more golf swings. I would use that if I had that. Crouching fierce, like everything but the DP. But you look at that and then you just start refining it there. Like, okay, well, these situations you need to do this. These situations you need to do that. Like maybe I air to air with jumping medium kick, which hits above me, or I hit jumping medium punch, which I can cancel into like a dive kick or whatever like that. Adapting to changing scenarios in modern games I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring, and I've seen a lot of improvement in my Street Fighter games because I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring, and it's like understanding that you're going to die if you fuck up changes a lot. It changes everything because it's like you're looking at a character that has a critical art and like full drive meter. You're not gonna do as much shit as you want to do, right? And it's like there's risks that you can take, and there's risks that you can choose, and risks that you have to take, right?
Right.
So like scenarios, like if you hit Cammy's level 3, right? If you hit her level 3, you can walk up and get standing roundhouse. They either have to block it or they do something crazy on wake up, right?
Right.
So now you gamble. Usually they want to jump backwards because they see you walking forward. They don't want to deal with pressure. That jumping roundhouse hits them, or they block it and then go into burner. Like, you have to see what the boss is doing, what kind of nutty shit the boss is doing, and then you have to figure out, okay, where can I hit you? And then there's also being patient, right? Like, some characters like Aki or Guile, like, you gotta just wait. You have to literally wait until they're in range so you can do some shit. I think sometimes they overtune characters and they get away with a lot more than they should, but this is only like the second year of the game. Like, so you can't really get too angry at that. I think a lot of players and like a lot of like, I can give really good advice. I can't take my own advice. You have to really just watch what the boss is doing. Like, you have to have your mindset. You have to be able to change what you want to do. Realize when you're autopiloting, and then you have to realize when they're autopiloting, right. And then you got to realize when they're adapting, right? Mm-hmm. So there'd be times where I'm just looking and I'm like, why the fuck are they neutral jumping, pressing a button? And I'm like, oh, they're probably waiting for me to drill a dive kick. And I just look at them, I just DP it. Or like when you get a JP cornered, they're going to jump and press roundhouse. Like, you just got to wait for it. And so you got to just look at the player. And I think it's tough, man, because you want to do your shit. You want to do your dance and your ties and little pants, right? You want a whole lot of chopping. Like, you want to get out there. You want to hit your shit. Like, I was telling Brandon when I lost, I'm like, I am fly out to Japan to go 0-2 in the game that I wanted to play, bro. Like, you know what I mean? I paid that $1,500 for the flight to block my G. Like, I'm doing some shit. And the crazy thing is, I did extremely well in third strike. I got like top 200 in third strike. And I don't play that game.
Right. Yeah, I know you don't.
Yeah, so like I broke even in every game except Guilty Gear and Grand Blue.
didn't think you were an anime fighter, to be honest with you.
Dude, I loved Guilty Gear when So Bad Guy stage was New York City, bro. Like,
I see.
When the instant kills is you could counter them with a hurricane kick and a button. When they did theirs, like, those were the days. But like, I mean, I'm going through the issue where that my arcade stick doesn't work on Strive on PC, so it's like whatever.
Right.
But but it's just like just general fighting knowledge, right? Just like understanding fighting, and it's like they say legacy skill. I feel like legacy skill is grossly understating. Because as I said, just saying it's legacy skill for a game, but I think legacy skill has to encompass more than just, well, I can play Street Fighter only. Like, if you can play multiple games, like, even though not like crazy good, but like understanding like nuances and understanding the differences, and then understanding how people may think in these games, I think that is a better use of the term of legacy skill than just like, oh, I can play Street Fighter 2, I can play Street Fighter 4. You know what I mean?
Right. I do know what you mean. And that's very good. That was a very good statement in terms of how did you approach the game. Because I know, even though at one point, as a legacy Cammy player, I feel like what keeps you in tune with her, just like me as a legacy Geef player, is that the architecture is kind of the same. It's just that what's the biggest differences in regards of each iteration of your character is three things: the normals, the mechanics, and pretty much like I want to say like environment, only because the environment of the game, like Street Fighter 6 for instance, right? The execution barrier, you kind of mentioned it before, has significantly went down, but I feel like what makes the game hard is because of that. It's because of that reason. I feel like everybody is legitimately on an even playing field. Like right now, even though the top players are in a whole different stratosphere at this point, that they are really knowing the ins and outs of this game and everything like that. But it kind of remains the question, like, do they? Because I feel like we haven't, like, at this point right now, in terms of figuring out the mechanics of 6. And I think you could agree with me. I think in terms of figuring it out, I feel like we haven't really figured out everything as of yet. I feel like we've mainly got like 30, 35, 40% of this game that we kind of figured out, because I feel like there's a lot more that we can kind of find out with this game afterwards. But I feel like
that's okay. So to your point, right? I remember there was this one quote from Seth Fillion about Marvel vs. Capcom 3, how they nerfed Jill, and there was some tech that was lost forever because of the nerf, and no one knew what it was, and no one figured out what it was. I think there's some stuff in the drive system that hasn't really been looked at, because just like where things can be cancelable frames, being able to be locked out of certain things in certain conditions, plus in like weird hit interactions.
Right.
I think there's a lot of stuff that's left, because like the characters change when they're in burnout, and they change when they have it. Like, there's one thing that I saw that two things that I saw that were like, they were like little details, but they stuck with me. One is that when you block, when you go into burnout, it's a normal block, right?
Right.
It's only the subsequent hit after that is the one that gets the frame advantage.
Yep, that is true.
That was one of the small things. And the second thing was that if they do a drive impact, and that's a true block string that there's no chance for you to get out of, you don't get splattered if you're in the corner. You do the blowback animation and you come standing straight up.
Yeah, I did know.
So like, yeah, so it's like little things like that tell me that there are certain like conditions where it's like there's true checkmates. There's true that like there's ways out of things. Like there's certain frames that you have to do things on, and it's like it's one of those things where you have to lab it and you have to just sit there and really take apart a character Because like right now, everyone is doing like 1 touch, 2 touches, which is like whatever, which is the game right now. But I think in time when like the environment, as you say, changes, because I'm 100% Terry is going to be able to run after this power wave.
Do you feel like? Oh, that's a good question, actually. Do you feel now? You have played Capcom for SNK2, right?
Yeah, I love Terry, bro. I'm going to be wearing Chucks and a fitted every single time I play.
It's just that my question to you is in regards about that. Like a small question, because with Mai and Terry coming out, what do you feel? And this actually ties into another question. What do you feel like the mechanic? Do you think Capcom is going to come up with a new mechanic because of those two?
No, they're gonna keep. I think because this is season 2, I don't think they're gonna change too much. Once they all come out, like Elena comes out, Mai and Terry, I think they're going to then have to really take a look at the economy of drive impact and like the drive system, because there's some things. There are gonna be some things that they gotta either say, okay, this is gonna be a part of. Right. And we're gonna nerf or we're gonna boost other people because of it. Like, think about it this way: you shouldn't be able to throw somebody onto a projectile, but some characters can. Like, it's weird that you can like throw somebody onto a thing and get a full combo from that, or the fact that you could throw a projectile and then run after it and create a high-low, right? Or like walk after it. And so now, like, think about a guy throwing a perfect boom and then dry rushing after it. What's the counterplay? What's the actual right counterplay for that scenario?
Right.
And then it's like, all right, so now Terry's going to have that. Terry's going to say power wave, and then he's going to run at you because that's what the Bogarts do. So now he can either power dunk, burn knuckle, do nothing. Like, what are you going to do there? Or like Mai is going to have an angled fan on screen and dash at you. Like, it's going to be like, you're going to have these weird situations where it's like, all right, maybe we need to either change something or we need to remove something. And it's just like, then if you remove something, characters like JP are going to like plummet, right? Because JP is playing 6, but what is he going to do when they take away like the really dumb shit?
Right. Nah, I see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying. So, but I see what you're saying with that. But so you pretty much think that they're not gonna like do anything new, pretty much.
They're not gonna do anything new yet. I think what's gonna happen is they're gonna come out. I know one of the first things they're gonna do is nerf Elena's healing. If she has it, they're gonna nerf that shit like right fucking way. Like, my biggest nightmare is that her healing, if they say that her healing scales with her drive gauge, I'm gonna have nightmares.
Oh boy. Yeah, that would be terrifying, honestly. That would be really terrifying.
Bro, like, what? Because then it's just like healing, and these fights are never gonna end. Because we all remember 4. So like,
yes, we do.
Let's not do it based on drive gauge. Let's do it like a fixed amount. Like, yes, maybe you hold it, like it becomes a level 3. Maybe it is her level 3. I don't know. Like, but yeah, if she has it and it scales from drive gauge, it's gonna be stupid. I think they need to adjust perfect parry, and I think there'd be some situations where you shouldn't be able to perfect parry, where it doesn't make sense. Like, you whip a button and you perfect parry like right after that.
Right.
Like, that's kind of weird. Like, or they just change the frame data overall. I think one of the things that would probably help the life of the game is if they change or they remove the buttons that you could drive impact from.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like, you can't cancel and to drive rush and drive impact over every single cancelable button. Maybe certain ones, like, they pick and choose. And so, like, now it's like, okay. Because, like, I feel like there's too many options for that.
Right.
But, like, I mean, that's just like a me thing. I don't think it's not a make or break for the game, but I think that being able to like drive cancel and drive reverse off anything that's cancelable is a little bit too freewheeling, and they probably need to rein it in a little bit. Like saying maybe you can only, if you drive cancel off of a light, you can maybe only press a light. If you drive cancel off a heavy, like, you know, like lock out certain buttons that you can drive cancel from and make them like clearly unsafe. I think that'll be the thing, because there's some things is like, bro, what? Or they make it raw drive rush more expensive.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think drive rush should be 3 bars instead of occasionally 2, because that would kind of you said why 3?
No. Say a flat 3.
Yeah.
Because when you drive cancel off a button, it's 3. But
yeah,
like it should 100%. Be 3. It should be universal 3. And then that changes. That will change a lot of characters, because it's like, okay, you don't get the full, because you build your meter while you're doing your combo, so like you don't get the full this full wham bam thank you man, because like that was one of the nerfs back in the day for Street Fighter 4 Cammy, where they were like, yo, she gets too much damage off her button, so 2 combos and you're dead.
Right.
I think Street Fighter 6 is like that, 2 combos and you're really dead, right? It's like 2 good combos, and like if you drive like off of like drive rushes, like you're killing somebody. So.
Well, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good thing right there. I mean, 3. Yeah, I think 3 is very negligible, but I think people is gonna disagree with the 3 bar drive rush for sure. But I feel like that control is definitely more of the neutral than having it 1 or 2 bars in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, because to 1 bar you just drive rush jab and then you bait something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so continue on from there. Let's still focus on you for a moment, right? What would be, now, I know you've done tournaments before, right? You've done tournaments, you've competed in them.
Yep.
What would be your most memorable moment in your tournament run, I would say?
My biggest tournament, memorable that I'm gonna remember this forever. I think probably there was one Apex where I was playing on stream and they thought it was Sako, but it was really just a black guy named Phire.
Right.
I was hitting Sako combos. I feel like I did really good. No, I think he's gonna. I hate to bring this up. I really hate to bring this up. This is so far long ago. I beat Reinhardt at PAX. I think that was the moment.
Right.
Like it was a Mad Catz party. He was playing Akuma, but I think he tried to challenge me walking forward with a fireball. I just ulted him. And I won. And he was like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Yeah, bro. They don't know that." Like, but I just like understanding. And I think from then, that was it. Where I realized I was like, "Yo, I can kind of play this game." And then another one for me was I got my ass kicked, but I beat Daigo around in the arcade in Shinjuku, and I was just like, "Bro, what?" Like that was another moment. But then everything else, it's gonna sound kind of lame, but it's like I'm seeing like my friends grow and become better players. I think that's what's like driving me to keep playing and like keep doing this stuff. Because I'm like watching everybody grow, become better. So it's all memorable. Because even seeing Reg, right? I think he did okay against somebody, and I think he got a round over Ryan or whatever. And it was just like watching him realize that he can play and he can belong. Same thing with you, like watching you guys like see that, like, oh shit, like I can actually be on the court with these guys. I could be on, like, you know what, on the same floor with them. Like, dude, that's gold, bro. And you don't get that from everything. So I think that is the number one memorable thing, like just overall. Like me personally, yeah, I mean, I got some victories. I've never won anything really, but that doesn't really matter to me. Like, I think it's just the growth process, and seeing and being a part of other people's growth is what's like doing it.
Yeah. Well, like I said, like you were very. very appreciative in terms of that, because like I said, I feel like one of the biggest things that, you know, that really stands out for us is the fact that how you have been there for pretty much our beginnings to our success. And you're like pretty much like you're like definitely like the sensei, the father figure of, you know, our journey into what we are today at this point. I mean, in the combination of gaming and life at the same time, that, you know, it made me realize, me as a person, that I have I had the potential to, you know, box with the greats at this point. And you've always stood firm, and you always believed in us in the first place, just like how you believe in yourself in terms of how you have done in tournament. It's pretty remarkable, honestly. Like, you don't get thanks enough in terms of that, which, you know, to this day I still thank you in regardless of all this in the first place.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate that. I think the thing is I grew up, like, I was, like, I'm not the big brother. I'm, like, actually the big brother. Mm-hmm. But, like, I always tried to be the big brother that I would want. And I think, also, I think, like, kindness is something that is very cheap and it doesn't cost anything. Mm-hmm. And I think if you can believe in somebody and you can have them have success and they can believe in themselves, like, that's worth more than anything on the planet. And even till today, like, how crazy would, like, things could have been so different for a lot of people, right? Like, I'm not, like, think about it this way, right? If I never did video games and I did whatever I want, like, there's a lot of people who wouldn't have broken through. Like, Chris G would never have broken through. Like, I mean, maybe eventually, but, like, he immediately shot to the top because, like, yo, somebody believed in him. And I said, yo, you need to sponsor this guy. I remember the bus ride back to Fort Lee, where Jonathan Moore was like, yo, should I sponsor Chris G? I was like, yeah, absolutely. And John went all in, and then the rest wrote itself, right? Like, Reese was there too. Like, dude, like, just saying, like, even when you, Reggie, and John showed up, like, yo, what the fuck is going on? When you were brought there by Levy One, and he was like, yo, and then it's just like, day one, y'all just put it in, and then it's just like you started seeing successes and victories, and then I think Francis showed up and Dex, and then all of a sudden y'all went from, like, not saying nobodies, but y'all became more than what you would have been by yourself, right? Like Joe, he leveled up fast. Like, there's so many people that just by being in an environment that's supportive, grew. That is what I think the FGC should be. Like, that's what to me, that's what it means.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means to other people. Like, I definitely don't do shit for money. Like, even when I stream, I don't do it for money. I do it to have a place where people can hang out, laugh, do whatever. But, like, I think if you can create an environment where, like, who was a player that grew a lot, that got really good really fast, that we all know, that went to 8-bit?
Would probably be CJ, technically.
CJ fucking leveled up super fast. Dude, even to this day, I'm still playing sets with a Jago, Twisted Jago, because it's like they remember. Like, I think, like, just being in that environment where you have, like, family. Like, think about it, man. He still hangs out with us. Eddie still hangs out with us. Lee will hang out with us. You can go to any event, he'll hang. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's like family, and it's like that's what the number one thing is. It's like family gaming community, like, you know. So it's just like there's got to be. I think my advice. This is gonna be like weird, but my advice to anyone who is trying to build something like that, or just trying to, like, really get involved, you gotta put it so that people can grow, and you can't do it in such a way where you expect something in return. You have to do it for actual, like, you want to see them grow, right? Because, like, steel sharpens steel. You don't want to just be, like, the best player in Gatekeeper. Like, you want to get good so the people around you can get good, so you can get even better, and then you can all raise to higher, like, bigger and better things. And it's, I think, that's what's missing, I think, in a lot of communities right now. And I think people have to really take a step back and just like think about why they're actually doing it and then what they're actually doing it for. Because if you're doing it for money and trying to survive, all right, cool, like nothing wrong with that, but like that's not really going to be sustainable. And if you're doing it for like clout or just to be known or like just to get your like 15 minutes of fame, like it's gonna end, and what are you gonna be left with, right? Like it's crazy. Like I remember this one guy that I remember he showed up to Glitch's house with a fucking controller, and this is when Glitch lived in Queens with Ultimizer and the other guy. And I remember, you know who I'm talking about, and he's now like the world's villain, but then now his world is crumbling down.
Yeah.
And it's like when I remember he showed up with a fucking Xbox controller, he was like a really chill dude. And then over time, like he figured out that's what his lane, that's what it wanted to be. And then it's just like, bro, you could have been so much more, you know?
Right. No, I know that. Oh man, I know exactly what you mean, man. He was a good dude. Not sure where it went wrong.
Clout, bro. Yeah. Clout's a hell of a drug, man. I mean, kudos. Like Project Gotham Racing gives you kudos, right? Yeah. So like, that's what it is, dude. And it's just like, dude, we have to be better. And I think our generation, like the old heads, I think we have to be willing and ready to step aside for the young bloods so that they can like live in this time. Like, I mean, we're not gonna fucking lay down and let these little motherfuckers beat us, but we also gotta understand, like, yo, these games are made for them. Like, right. Dude, like, people don't have the attention span to sit down. Like, how you figured out a lot of shit in ST. Mm-hmm. People don't got that time. People don't got that. Like, people don't got that bandwidth for that. So, like, we gotta understand that. Like, yo, I can't bitch that this person did some stupid brain dead shit because, like, I got hit by it. But, like, that's what these games are going to be designed for, to get, like, the newer player base in. And while it sucks, like, I'd much rather be guaranteed a new Street Fighter than have Street Fighter still be like Dark Souls and we have like 10 people playing the game.
Right. Yeah, you're right about that. I see what you mean with that.
Yeah, like, I'd much rather, like, I want to see Street Fighter at the Olympics, and if it costs us, like, if it means that some shit gotta be easy, then some shit just gotta be easy, man.
Yeah. Seeing it at the Olympics would be pretty dope, though. It would be pretty thing. And I think in terms of that, I feel like in order to make the team, it definitely has to be some qualifiers for sure. But
yeah, you can't do online.
No,
definitely can't do online because people are cheating now. And it's like, it's so ubiquitous that the way people are cheating.
It's bad. It's bad, bro. I think I think the cheating has grown, actually. So it's actually real interesting. Really interesting. But all right, I got pretty much a few more questions for you, actually. Now, before we get off the FGC topic, right? I do have one question. What are your thoughts on the current state of it right now? I think that's the one thing I kind of did not ask. Like, we were talking so much about the future of what the FGC is. What do you think the current state of the FGC is now?
It's weird. I think it's a lot of drama. I think right now it's a lot of nerds who haven't been popular before in their lives actually being popular, and there's like a lot of bad behavior. But I also think it's a lot in the video game industry and a lot of male-dominated spaces. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of crazy shit happening right now. I think in terms of the community aspect, I think it's growing and still going through growing pains. We're still having issues in some areas with some things.
Right.
I think one of the things that came to mind is how Brutus got fucking bullied for his beef tier list. And then it's just like, why are we like this still? Like, is it 2024? Like, what the fuck are we actually doing? Oh, the system.
Are you thinking?
Yeah, no,
are you thinking about it?
No, no, I was just trying to fix my PC. No, yeah. So I think a lot of it is we're still growing, and I think a lot of people have they're still married to the idea of like FGC is full of tough guys, and like we're all gonna just be mean and tough because our games are mean and tough. But like literally, these same dudes have like anime profile pictures.
Right.
I think a lot of where we are now, there is like it's a lot more welcoming from 2009, way more welcoming. I think in terms of sustainability, we still have a long ways to go. We're still like an infant. I think that we don't have enough stuff to support like basically like how there's not enough money in the NBA for more than 400 people to be playing in the NBA.
Right.
I feel like there's not enough money for enough people to be top players. And I feel like it's not enough money right now for somebody to like, just based on winnings alone, just to survive as a FGC player. Like you have to make content. You have to social. You have to do these things. It's no way. There's like no way that you can survive without it. And then I think we need to do better for that.
Okay.
I think that's the number one thing. I feel like we haven't really done enough, right? Like I think Sonic Fox made all his money from like a couple tournaments and then that's it. Like, and that's like not a good look because like that, I think, what was it, that Dota tournament that got people like $1 million per person, like that's life-changing money.
Right.
Like we don't have that yet. And the Capcom, like the joke, like it's 2024, someone finally won $1 million playing Street Fighter.
I think that's the first time that Capcom actually, well, pretty much, I would say, like, did a mill as a grand prize, actually. So,
but like, how long has this game been out? Like, no company, nobody decided that it might be worth doing a $1 million tournament for this game that is a cultural icon. Yeah, dude, like, his Street Fighter references are everything, and it's like, okay, the company itself had to do that, but like they'll make Street Fighter references in TV and everything, really. And you know what I mean? Like, why is it taking so long for them?
Right, I got you. Well, that's a very good question, and I feel like majority of them does have their reasons, but I feel like majority of their reasons is actually BS. Because
yeah, like, dude,
this game 6 has been out a year, and we already got $1 million tournament. And not to mention, there were actually other tournaments, I would say before Capcom Cup, that had a pretty sizable prize pool, to be honest with you. Like, there were some that had like 10K, 20K, 30K. I mean, it may not seem enough, but winning it in that one sitting is actually pretty different, to be honest with you. Like, it's very different. But I would say, like, when it got to a mill, because there's no orgs, no nothing, that's all Capcom's doing, that kind of really tells the story upon the org's position in terms of the FGC nowadays. Because it feels like, they want to get involved, but it's like, the old saying, they have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, pretty much. Because it's like, okay, they do want to invest because it's actually, fighting games are pretty cool. But then at the same time, FGC does FGC things. And it would kind of ruin the image in terms of a sponsored player doing some crazy stuff. So, yeah, I see exactly what you mean. But okay, now this is a three-part question right here. This is the last three-part question of this interview right here.
Gotcha.
So, tell me this: so part one is, what is your short-term / long-term goals in the FGC. And the other question is there any specific tournaments that you're aiming for at this point? And, one more is, do you find yourself, okay, what do you consider yourself now? Do you feel like you're still Phire, the tournament player, or have you kind of scaled back into just, still playing fighting games, but into content creation, like casual content creation?
All right. So my long-term and short-term goals. My short-term goals have not changed. I'm getting out of fucking pools, bro. The shit has not changed. Long-term goal is I want to actually do more stuff with fighting games with my job, and I want to get some events happening with my job. So get something into schools, get something into the city for esports just overall. So I'm really trying for that. I think I'm still going to travel when I can for tournaments and stuff like that. I'm still putting the hours in the lab. I think as long as I can pick up my controller and I can carry it, the flames of conflict will always burn bright, bro. I'm on bumpers, man. If I'm in your pools, I'm going to cut you. So I think I'm always going to want to compete because if you're going to do something, and something like fighting is yeah, you can play for casual, play for funsies, but I want to win.
Right.
So yeah, dude, I'm gonna keep playing, and I think I want to keep playing for as long as I can, so my hands become fucking claws, and I'm still find a way to play them. And I think we don't get old. We get old when we stop playing. So I think once you lose your passion for something and you stop doing it, that's when you feel like you're old and you can't do it. My goal is to be 70 something sitting at a cabinet still bringing smoke to somebody, bro. So you know what I'm saying? That OG sign that you see in the anime that's oh.
Yeah.
And it's he hit you with some shit. How is this old man come? I want to do that. I want to be that grandpa that's yo, I used to swizzle with the best of them, little boy. I've seen everything that you can do, and I fought before. You know what I mean?
Right. Nah, I see what you're saying. I mean, that would be sick, honestly. That would be sick. They would be yo, who is this grandpa? This man really just went, he went through the trenches, and he's still busting people's ass nowadays. So,
yo, bro, you got to, man. You can't. I think that's the most important thing for us, our generation, is that we have to hold on to that, because I think I'm old. I'm in my 40s. But there's a lot of people that are younger than me that have died already, and there's a lot of people that in the coming years that we are going to bury because time is undefeated. So we just got to be better. We got to not let the memories die out. We got to keep playing. We got to keep barbecues, stuff like that is important. It's not it's sort of history, how some cultures pass down history via food and community shit. We need to keep doing that shit, man, because when we leave, that's all we're gonna have left, right? I think I told my friend, she asked me why am I doing all these things? Why do I do all this stuff? And I said, because when my strand is cut and I'm gone, I want everybody at my funeral and my wake to have a story and a different story. And we can all just share stories. And it's that's what the fighting game community is. Yo, I remember this time that Hicks SPD'd a fucking Blanca ball, bro. And they'll be no, man, there was this one time that Reg did fucking this chicken wing combo into a read. You know what I mean? That's the shit of legends. We're all gonna remember Eagle Moment 37. When hopefully it's years from now when Justin passed, someone's gonna remember at his grave is yo, let's go Justin. That's gonna be it. Right?
Right.
So we just gotta do our best for that.
That's true. And is there any specific tournaments that you're aiming for at this point nowadays?
Dude, I want to do this year. I wanted to do both Evo Japan and Evo, but it ended up being too much money. And so, like, I did Evo Japan. I'm gonna always do Evo Japan when I can, but like, I want to start doing more American tournaments. So I'll just do like whatever I can get to. Thinking about Defend the North, but I'm also leaving in like 2 to 4 weeks. So like, I don't know.
I see. Okay, I got what you're saying. So I think we pretty much went through all of the questions in your background, which was this interview has been very insightful, to be honest with you. I would say like a lot of people should understand about Phire is one of the biggest things of his character, which is his character that I appreciate, is the fact that how he is one person that you can always look for to ask questions in terms of anything. If he doesn't really have the answer, he'll try his best to actually give you something in terms of, making sure that you have you set your path on the right way, especially in the competitive way. Like I said, this man has seen practically everything. It's during the dark ages until when the FGC got resurrected. He's hosted tournaments within the 8-bit dojo, where a lot of players, just like I want to say like how Chinatown Fair had its list of players, legendary players that came from there, the 8-bit dojo had also a lot of people that came from there as well. Like, there's a lot of legends that came from the 8-bit dojo, and this man was pretty much the father figure of all of that was going on. So we greatly appreciate you for doing that. Now, here's the thing. I know people, I think you stream and everything. I would say like people who wants to see you at this point after this interview, because they got to know you exceptionally more in terms of your background. Where people can find you at this point?
Twitch.tv. So I didn't get my name, but it's the real Phire, but all underscore. So the underscore real underscore PHIRE. That's the Twitch. I'm on whenever. Come through, hang out, have fun, laugh with me. I don't pretend to be this amazing player. I am very human. I get frustrated. I lose. But that's part of the growth process, man. I also model my thinking, right? I'll be like, yo, what am I doing? What are we thinking about? Have a conversation. I give advice. I'm like a professional local uncle now. Like, it's pretty good, man. It's pretty, like, life is good right now.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that.
So yeah, Twitch.tv, the underscore the real Phire. I think that's I got it right. But yeah, I mean, you can put the link in there. The main photo is actually from this Evo. I met an Aki cosplayer. I took a picture with her because Brandon wanted to take a picture, so we took a picture. I had to break out the guns, son. Yeah, the guns were flexing right there with Aki, man. No poison can penetrate those guns right there in terms of what you see. Nah, man.
But
muscle kindness, bro. Muscle kindness.
And like I said, yeah. Thank you so much, Phire, for being on this interview.
No problem.
And
thank you for having me. I appreciate this.
Nah, no problem. No, not a problem, man. I mean, it's my honor to have you, because, like I said, when this idea came about, like I said, you were definitely one of the first people that I wanted to seek out in terms of an interview, because you had pretty much like a rich history of everything. Like, I've got to know you better through that history, and basically now there's more that I've learned in terms of your upbringing of gaming and competing as well. So
yeah,
it's really fascinating, honestly. It's really fascinating that your upbringing is very interesting, honestly, because you've pretty much been in the mix of Like you said, you've been in the mix with pretty much with the greats. Honestly, like you've been in the mix with pretty much the greats, but you kind of had like a different. Instead of like you being at Chinatown Fair, you technically were at the 8-Bit Dojo, and you still had interaction with them there. So that's pretty awesome.
I feel like if you do anything right and you do anything passionate, people recognize that and they respect that. And I think, I just think that more people, if they ask more questions and they got the answers that they want, like I always want to share my insights, because whatever you're going through, if I've been through it and I can help you get through it, or I can give you some sort of idea on how to beat it, I'll do that. And I think that's what big bros and unks and like the OGs are really supposed to do for like the homies, man. And I think that's the number one thing.
Yeah. Right. Well, you hear it, folks, man. You hear this man right here. Just keep that thought what he just said in your head. And then you could reach him out at his Twitch. You have Twitter also, right?
Yep, the Glory of Phire. That's all one word. Glory, as in glory, hallelujah, of fire. Like an Elden Ring boss, right? You got to say the whole thing, the Glory of Phire.
Yeah, the Glory of Phire. So, yep. All right, folks. Well, thank you very much. And once again, thank you, Phire, for being a part of this interview. And everybody, thank you very much for being in another episode of Megaman Legends. So we'll tune in for the next episode, and we will see you soon. Any last words you want to go before we go, Phire?
Drink water. It's hot outside, kids.
Yeah, drink water. It's hot outside. Yeah, it's like 92 degrees outside.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, thank you, guys. We will see you next time on another episode of Megaman Legends. Peace out.
Stay safe. Peace.